the fiqh, or the proper understanding of zakat, made easy. And we mentioned in the introduction some from the importance of zakat in its status. Like, on the next slide it says, the definition of the term zakat. What does this word mean? It's impossible to understand something, to perform something, to fulfill something, if you don't know the basics of that term, what it means. And there's two ways of looking at it. Firstly is lexically or linguistically. What does the term zakat mean in the Arabic language? Nothing to do with the Islamic sense. Nothing to do with what the Muslims understand, but the Arabs. Okay? A Jewish Arab, a Christian Arab, a Muslim Arab, an atheist, someone who's of the pure Arabic tongue. The Quran was sent down in their tongue, and the Messenger of Allah ﷺ spoke that language. So it's essential for us to understand what the word actually means. And secondly, what does it mean in the Shari'ah, legislatively? What do the Muslims intend of the past when they say zakat, pay zakat, give zakat? That's what we want to look at now, bi'idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the next slide, we have here, lexically, the word zakat has three meanings, brothers and sisters. It's very essential that you understand these meanings to get the full benefit from your zakat. The full benefit is going to come from you having a proper understanding of the actual word. Firstly, it means purity or purification. Al-tuhur. Zakat means tuhrun or tahara. Zakah shay. Zakah shay'a idha tahura or idha taharahu. To clean something. To wash away something. So we understand when you start talking about paying zakat, giving your wealth for the masjid, for the poor, that it's cleansing. It's wiping away something that needs to be wiped away. And that is the filth of sins. The filth of ignorance, of being heedless and neglectful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is from the wisdoms, as it states in a hadith, the hadith of Abdullah ibn Abbas. The hadith is not authentic. It says that the zakat al-fitr was legislated tuhratan or tu'matan lil masakin wa tuhratan lis sa'imina min al-rafath or min al-lahwi wal rafath or kama qala. That the zakat al-fitr has been legislated to give food to the poor and a purification for those who fasted. Because many people, they fast, they refrain from food, they refrain from drink, but they still make idle talk. They still talk about people. They still look at the television and listen to things and watch things that they're not supposed to. So that zakat, it washes away that extra residue. So this is what the term zakat linguistically means. Firstly, it is purity. As it's mentioned in the Quran, Inni a'udhu bir-Rahmani minka in kunta taqiyya. In kunta, yani nafsuka nafzakiyatan. As Allah has mentioned in another part of the Quran, that is zaki, pure. Secondly, the word zakat means an-nama'u, increase, az-ziyada. The term zakat means to grow, not to decrease. Very essential in understanding giving zakat. You pay your money is not going to diminish. It's not going to be harmed, but it's going to be the opposite. It's going to do what? It's going to flourish. And this is from the linguistical understanding of the term zakat. It means to blossom, to bloom, to mushroom, to get higher, to get bigger. And the third meaning that the Arabs use for the term zakat is al-barakatu wa kathratul khayr. Is blessings and abundant good. Zakat means something that's maymoon, something that's blessed, great fortune. It's extremely important. You give the money for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It may physically decrease that amount, but it's more. And we know that the believer does not worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala based off of just material things. No. You just don't eat just to eat to fill your belly. When you go to sleep, it's just not sleep for your physical body. It's more. That's why you say Bismillah. That's why you seek refuge. That's why you make the dua when you eat, when you sleep. When a man is intimate with his wife, with your children. Because the believer seeks barakah. The believer, he seeks what? Barakah. Rather, we say rather, even the non-Muslims seek barakah. What do the kuffar say when they want something to be successful or they want somebody to be safe? What's the first thing they say? They say what? God bless you. Or they say, good luck. This is what the non-Muslims say. Because they know it's more than just the tangible, palpable strength. You need more than that. It's the first. This is what they say. Good luck. You're lucky. Okay. Now we know they have incorrect understandings and polytheism, but some of it is similar to what we believe. Barakah. May Allah bless you. May Allah aid you. And this is what the zakah linguistically means. Everybody clear on this, brothers and sisters? Right. Moving on to the next slide. Legislatively, what does zakat mean? التعبد لله عز وجل بدفع مال بلغ النصاب إلى مستحقيه بشروط مخصوصة. It says, legislatively, the act of worshiping Allah, the exalted, by paying tax on wealth that has reached a specific minimum to its rightful recipients with specific conditions. What does all this mean? Firstly, zakat is not a custom, brothers and sisters. It's not something that's culture. It's not based off of culture. It's not based off of custom. It's not based off of a holiday. But it's what? It's ibadah. It's worship. It's worship. And no worship is accepted by Allah unless it fulfills two conditions. The first condition is that you must be sincere in your ibadah. Don't pay zakat for your family members. Don't pay zakat for the praise of the people. Don't pay zakat for a reward and a recompense from the people. MashaAllah, the brother is so generous. He gave his zakat to the masjid. He gave his zakat to the building fund. MashaAllah, we have to put his name on the masjid. No. لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا. إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله. Allah says, we only feed you seeking the wajh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We seek neither thanks nor recompense from you. So it's very important that zakat is what? It's worship. And many Muslims, we say we understand this and we know this, but when the actual time comes, you find many Muslims become heedless. Look at the Salat al-Eid. How many Muslims actually are thinking that the Eid is worship? Is a day to thank Allah, to praise Allah, to seek Allah's forgiveness. Many Muslims, if not most of them, they practice the Eid, a day to wear your best clothes, to eat the best food, to drink the best of drinks, to see your family members, hugs, kisses, laughs, jokes, and that's the Eid. And it's a big mistake. Ramadan, the masjid, you come, you pray, you eat a couple of dates, and you pray salah, and that's it. No. It's ibadah, it's worship. It's something that's deeper than that. And the second condition is that the worship has to be done according to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. You cannot pay zakat as you want to pay zakat. You cannot pay zakat according to your custom or your country or what. No. You must pay zakat according to what Muhammad ﷺ legislated. And how does a person pay zakat? According to what the Prophet, the one whom we love, ﷺ, legislated, unless he has what? Ilm, knowledge. Man yuridillahu bihi khayran yufaqihu fi din. Wa innama ana qasimun wallahu yu'ti. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, whoever Allah wants good for, whoever Allah wants to give His mercy to, He gives him fiqh of the religion, understanding of the deen. And then the Prophet ﷺ, he then goes on to say, in this authentic hadith, and this part of the hadith is not mentioned too much. Many people, they just know about the first part. The hadith says, وَإِنَّمَا أَنَا قَاسِمٌ. I'm only one who distributes. I'm nothing but a giver out. I pass out. Wallahu yu'ti. And Allah is the one who actually gives. Allah is the one who endows. And I'm nothing but an administrator of this endowment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we as Muslims have to have knowledge. We have to have ilm. And how to worship Allah, not upon ignorance. Fine. So zakat is worshiping Allah the exalted. By doing what? How do we worship Allah with zakat? Do we pray? Do we fast? Is it a dhikr that we make? No. It is by giving something, paying something. And that is a tax on wealth. Any wealth? If I have, mathalan, for example, here I have what? 10 riyals in my pocket. 10 Saudi riyals in my pocket. According to this definition, I have to pay a tax on this 10 riyal. This 10 riyal bill, I have to pay a tax. 50 halala, 50 halalas, a riyal, riyalain, 2 riyals, $1. No. It is a specific type of wealth. And it is that wealth that reached a specific minimum. Not maximum, but what? Minimum. Meaning that if you are a rich, wealthy person, you don't have to worry about what is the minimum, because you know you have a lot of money. But a specific amount, you're working class, middle class, but whatever the case may be, then you need to know the minimum. So it's a specific amount of money that you pay zakat on. And brothers and sisters, the zakat is not the money that you put in the sadaqah box. Zakat is not sadaqah, it's different. They are not the same. And I'm not talking about these brothers and sisters here because I don't know you. This is my first time to be blessed to meet, sit in front of these beautiful faces, alhamdulillah. But in many masjids, in many places, most Muslims, they think that zakat is the money that they take out of their wallet on Jumu'ah and put in a sadaqah box. That's a big mistake. Now, on this wall, it says zakat fund, sadaqah fund, and janazah fund. Perhaps it may be different, but in most masjids, or a lot of masjids, it's one steel box. And it's a big mistake. The zakat is specific, a minimum. Tayyib, once you have that minimum, who do you give the zakat to? I gave my zakat to my wife. I gave my zakat to my mother, to my son. Khalas, that's sufficient. I send my zakat back to my country, to my tribe. No. The zakat has to be given to specific people, to its rightful recipients, those who deserve it. And how do we know who deserves the zakat? According to how poor people are? According to the economic status of this country and the infrastructure? No. According to what Allah said in the Quran. إِنَّمَا الصَّدَقَاتُ. Allah says the sadaqat, yani az-zakawat. Az-zakawat. Zakat is only for, and then He mentioned the people. This one and that one and this group and this group. وَالْغَارِمِينَ وَفِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَمِنَ السَّبِيلِ فَرِيضًا مِنَ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ إِلَى آخِرِ الْآيَةِ Surah Tawbah. The verse in Surah Tawbah. So therefore zakat has to be given to rightful recipients. If you give your zakat to someone who doesn't deserve it, to someone who's unqualified, then that's your zakat. And we all know what the Prophet ﷺ said on the Day of Judgment. Those who do not pay zakat will be put through extreme punishments. Those who don't pay zakat on their livestock, they will be trampled and there will be a stampede. These animals will stomp them and poke them with their horns and gorge them with their horns. Kullu, the Prophet, every time one group of animals passes by, another group comes. Waliyadu billah. The one who doesn't pay his wealth, he will be burnt in hell. وَالَّذِينَ يَكْنِزُونَ الذَّهَبَ وَالْفِضَّةَ وَلَا يُنْفِقُونَهَا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ فَبَشِّرْهُمْ بِعَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ يَوْمَ يُحْمَى عَلَيْهَا فِي نَارِ جَهَنَّمَ Al-Ayah. Allah says those who hoard gold and silver and they don't spend them in the lost cause, they will have, Allah says, Bashirhum. Waliyadu billah. Give them the tidings, the news of a painful punishment. And that gold and that silver will be melted. Do we know how hot a fire has to be to melt metal? Very, very hot. To be liquefied, molten gold and silver. And it'll be put on their faces, waliyadu billah, and their heads, and their sides, and their backs. And Allah will say, هَذَا مَا كَنَزْتُمْ لِأَنفُسِكُمْ فَذُوقُوا مَا كُنْتُمْ تَكْنِزُونَ. Allah says, so taste what you used to hoard. So paying zakat is extremely important. And how can you pay zakat if you don't know how to pay zakat? If you pay zakat mistakenly, one may say, Allah won't punish me. I did it by accident. I didn't know how to pay zakat. I didn't know that I couldn't give zakat to my wife. I didn't know I couldn't give zakat to my mother. But you had the ability to ask the imam. You had the ability to pick up a book. Allah has gave us internet, websites. It's no excuse, brothers and sisters. And finally, the zakat has specific conditions. If you don't meet the specific conditions, then you don't have to pay zakat. If you have a large amount of wealth, so on and so forth, there are people who deserve that zakat, but it may be something that prevents the zakat from being obligatory upon you, such as debt, so on and so forth. Tayyib. Moving on. The status of zakat in Islam. What is so important about zakat? What's the big deal about zakat? Big deal. 5 pillars of Islam, right? Plus, I've been Muslim my whole life. I'm Muslim for 30 years. I don't need to hear a lecture about zakat. Zakat is paramount in Islam. Firstly, zakat is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. That's sufficient. We can cut off the projector screen. Every virtue of Islam, everything that's good about Islam pertains to zakat, because zakat is part of those 5 pillars. Secondly, zakat has been mentioned in connection with the prayer in over 80 verses from the Book of Allah, the Exalted in Might and Majesty. In over 80 places, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned the zakah as the sister and as the twin of what? Brothers, I need participation. As the twin of what? Of salah. Over 80 places in the Quran. That's a lot of places. Not 10, not 5, not 20, not 50. Thamanun. 80 places in the Quran Allah mentions the prayer, and He mentions its twin sister, the zakat. The greatest act of physical worship is the salah. The greatest act of one's financial worship and generosity for Allah is zakat. Moving on. It purifies the souls of humans from the vice of miserliness, stinginess, and greed. For a person to be stingy, for a person to be tight-fisted, for a person to see people starving, see people suffering, see people who are needy, and he has abundance of wealth and he doesn't give, then there lies no doubt something is wrong with that human being. It's a sickness, it's an illness. And it's not just amongst the Muslims. That condition is considered to be a defect. Everybody looks down upon a person who's stingy. The miser, the Scrooge, the person who doesn't give to the poor. This is a universal concept. So therefore, by you paying zakat, it prevents you from being from those who are stingy and tight-fisted. Because you give up what you love. As Allah has said in the Quran, لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ حَتَّى تُنْفِقُوا. What does the verse say? The shahr, the month of the Quran is coming. Until you give what you love. Why was this verse sent down? We all know why this verse was sent down. Play it. Moving on. It comforts and assists the poor and helps the needy and destitute to fulfill some of their basic needs. The zakat is a wisdom. It's a spiritual thing. But it's also something that is material. It aids the poor Muslims. Not only does it help them with their needs, their material, financial needs, but it soothes their souls. For the believer to sit back and he sees his brother enjoying things from the worldly life. He has a comfortable big car, a nice house, his children, his wife. His children, whenever they cry for something, they have it instantly. They're never thirsty, they're never hot, they're never uncomfortable. But him and his children, his family, they suffer. They don't have air conditioning in the house. They don't have food. His children cry. His wife, she doesn't have her basic needs and necessities. He sees his brother living in a lavish lifestyle. Does that not hurt his heart? I'm asking you the question. Would that not hurt his heart? Would he not feel bad? That's my brother. I go to sleep hungry every night. My children cry every night. And his children go home crying because they don't want this food. I want a different type of dessert. I don't want chocolate ice cream. I want vanilla ice cream. There lies no doubt something's wrong. And that's going to hurt the believer. He doesn't have the basic necessities. And his children, they cry because they want a different type of candy. A different kind of dessert. So this is from the hikmah of Allah legislating this. Is that it keeps all ill feelings out of the hearts of the believers. And we know that this is very important in Islam. From the reasons, brothers and sisters. From the reasons why gambling is haram is what? Why is gambling haram in Islam? Why is khamr haram in Islam? What does Allah say in the Quran? إِنَّمَا الْخَمْرُ وَالْمَيْسِرُ وَالْأَنصَابُ وَالْأَزْلَامُ رِجْسٌ مِنْ عَمَلِ الشَّيْطَانِ فَاجْتَنِبُوهُ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ الشَّيْطَانُ أَنْ يُوقِعَ بَيْنَكُمْ إيش؟ العداوة والبغضاء في الخمر والميسر ويصدكم عن الصلاة وعن ذكر الله وعن الصلاة فهل أنتم منتهون. Al-Ayat. Allah says in Surah Al-Ma'idah that the devil only wishes to cast hatred and vice, jealousy, ill feelings in your hearts through games of chance and alcohol. We're betting, we're gambling, everything's good and laughing and joking. But then he does something and he takes all of my money. Then I put my keys on the table. He takes all of my house keys, my wife's wedding ring, so on and so forth. He's going to feel some type of way. Like, Dad, can you give me my money back? Can I have the keys to my car back? It was fun. You got all of my money, but I need my keys. No. I want them fair and square. So what he's going to say, right? That what me? I want it fair and square. We gambled. You knew the stakes. Khalas. He's going to hate his brother. He's going to hate him. He broke his back. And this is from the hikmah why it is illegal. And this is from the hikmah why zakat is legislated. Because it keeps the hearts clean. No one is oppressed. Everyone is eating. Everyone is taken care of. The rich and the poor. The next thing that we can prove the status of zakat with is it establishes the general welfare upon which the life and brothers and sisters, please forgive me for speaking so fastly and rushing. It's a little bit of time. We have a lot of information. I'm only a guest here. Perhaps we may not meet again. So we're trying to cover as much information as we can. We go back to the recording. Rather, there's another session that we did on this that's on the internet, inshallah. So if I'm going fast, just bear with me. We have a lot to cover in a little bit of time. Right. It establishes the general welfare upon which the life and well-being of the Muslim nation/community rests. The Muslims can't live without money. Muslims cannot live without wealth. No one can, rather, but especially the Muslims. Muslims cannot survive and thrive as a community without a strong economic infrastructure. Without no money, there's no masjid. How are the lights on right now? Costs money. This water that I'm drinking costs money. The gas in the tank of us driving from New York to Philadelphia to Maryland costs money. And so on and so on and so forth. Anything you think about in Islam costs money. So therefore, the Prophet ﷺ has clearly mentioned نِعْمَ الْمَالِ الصَّالِحِ, how excellent is good money, wholesome money, pure money. لِلْعَبْدِ الصَّالِحِ, أو كما قال, for a good righteous slave. And we know the one who supported the Prophet ﷺ the most from day one with his wealth was who? Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. Without Abu Bakr as-Siddiq's funding, where would Islam be? So Islam and money go together like white on rice, or another color that the rice may be. Rice could be red or yellow. Al-Muhim, they go hand in hand. They go hand in hand. We don't worship money. We don't do away with our deen for money. But at the same time, there's a balance. Money is essential in Islam. You want to go overseas and seek knowledge? You need money. You need a plane ticket. Books cost money. You want to get married? You want to raise children? You need money. You want to call to Islam? Anything you want to do in Islam? There is wealth that's needed. And from this wealth is the zakat that is paid. Lastly, it limits the growth of wealth among the rich and in the hands of the merchants and professionals to the end of that last point. Meaning, it prevents a person from monopolizing the wealth. If there's no obligatory tax, I don't have to give anything. I keep all of the money. The dollar doesn't spread to the other hands in the community. And that is a big problem. And that is a cause behind a major failure in the economic system. Play it. Next point. The ruling of paying zakat. Zakat is incumbent according to the book, the sunnah, and the scholarly consensus, al-ijma'. There's no difference of opinion that zakat is obligatory for those who have the rightful money, the specific amount of money with the conditions. Paying zakat is one of the rulings that are well known by necessity, and which anyone who rejects them will fall into committing major disbelief. In other words, in simple terms, there's some things in Islam, brothers and sisters, that every single Muslim knows about. Every single Muslim knows about certain things in Islam. Every Muslim knows that you can't eat pork. Every Muslim knows that. Every Muslim knows that Allah does not have a son. Every single Muslim knows, inshallah, that you have to make prayer. Every Muslim knows it's haram to make fornication, and so on and so forth. But does every single Muslim know that it's permissible to wipe over your socks when you make wudu? Does every single Muslim know the expiation when a person swears and he doesn't fulfill that oath? Does every single Muslim know this detail and this issue? No. There's some things that only the learned Muslims know. There's some things that only the Muslims who grew up in the lands of the Muslims know. And there's some things that only the Muslims who know Arabic know. And so on and so forth. But zakat is from those things that every Muslim knows about. And the one who says, I don't have to pay zakat, there is no zakah. Zakat is not obligatory. He will leave the fold of Islam, unless he's from a very far, remote place in which Islam is extremely rare and weak. Right, next point. The proof from the Quran, Allah says, take alms from their wealth that will purify them and cleanse them therewith. خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً تُطَهِّرُهُمْ وَتُزَكِّيهِمْ بِهَا. Allah says in Surah Tawbah, take alms from their wealth, meaning take zakat. And what's the benefit of this zakat? Once again, brothers and sisters, to hurt them, to cause them loss? No, but it will do what? Purify them. This is in the Quran. The next proof from the Sunnah, narrated Abdullah ibn Umar, the Messenger of Allah said, Islam is built on 5 pillars. Bear witness that none has the right to be worshipped except Allah, and that I am the Messenger of Allah, to establish the prayer and to pay zakah, a fundamental pillar of Islam. And the hadith is totally authentic in Bukhari and Muslim. Next point. The proof from the ijma'. There lies no difference of opinion between the people of knowledge that paying zakat is mandatory. There's no khilaf. Shafi'i, Ahmed, Abu Hanifa, Al-Awza'i, Layth ibn Sa'd, all of the fuqaha, all of the ulama, they are in total agreement that zakat is fard, is mandatory. Next point. The types of wealth now, let's get into the actual meat now. The laham, as they say, the meat and the potatoes of the zakat, the tharid. The bread and the meat of the zakat. The introduction now, we want to talk about the actual zakat now. What type of wealth do you have to pay zakat on? All wealth? All wealth, brothers and sisters? Or some types of wealth? We say in Islam that you do not have to pay tax on everything that you own as wealth. Now, before we go on, most Muslims, they say what? They say you have to pay zakat on what? What do most Muslims say? On what? Money. Ahsan. Perfect. Beautiful. Money. What is money? Huh? Dollar bills? Dollar bills? La. What is this called? La. The paper. What do they call this? Legal tender. Federal Reserve notes. What's important, whether it's a real or franc or rupee or lira or euro or TT or yen, that's monetary assets. We're going to get to that. That's a big mistake to say just on money. No. Zakat is obligatory upon wealth. Malun. And what's meant by wealth in the tongue of the Arabs is what? Kullu ma yatamawwalu al-insan. Kullu ma yatamawwalu al-insan. Everything that a person utilizes and benefits from. Everything that is advantageous to you. Everything that profits you, that benefits you is called what? Mal, wealth. This real could be wealth. This cell phone could be wealth. I may have a camel, that's wealth. Food stuff is wealth. Clothing is considered what? Wealth. Jewelry, wahakada. It's essential to understand this, brothers and sisters. Zakat is not just obligatory upon money, but it's obligatory upon what? Wealth. All of your wealth, everything that you own? No. Allah is merciful. Specific things you have to pay zakat on. And the following points. Firstly, monetary assets. And the term in Arabic, in the Shari'ah, is called an-naqdain. Zakatul naqdain. An-naqdain, what's meant by naqdain? Yani al-dhahab wal-fidda. Gold and silver. Gold and what? And silver. Whether it's a coin, whether it's a nugget, whether it's jewelry pieces, raw gold and silver, a vase, an ornament, a cup, a sword, al-muhim, gold and silver. Or, bel, we say specifically that which is used as a monetary asset, a coin. In the time of the Prophet ﷺ, did they have dollar bills? Did they have dollar bills in the time of the Rasul? No. We don't know. Let's say that. We don't know of any dollar bills. So the Prophet ﷺ obviously did not legislate. He didn't say pay zakat on reals or dollars. What did they use to buy and sell? Gold and silver. Coins. Gold and silver. Now, where do we get that zakat is on dollar bills? We get it from what? Qiyas. We make an analogy. That the gold and the silver, the people don't carry around bags of coins anymore. People barely carry around this anymore. Right? But for the people that do, the dollar bill or the real, inshallah, by the permission of Allah, inshallah, has taken the place of the gold and the silver. So it takes the same ruling. Right? That's all we're going to say about that. The first thing that you have to pay zakat on is that which is called a monetary asset, something that you use as currency. Number 2, you must pay zakat on bahimatul an'am. Bahimatul an'am, livestock. Not all animals that you own, not chicken, geese, and fowls, but on what? Livestock. Meaning, camels, cows, goats, and sheep. We're going to explain this when it gets to the specific slide, but right now, so no one can be confused and take our time as we were been commanded to do, is livestock includes what? Camels. Raise your hand if you have a camel farm here in America. Not too many people. Raise your hand if you had camels in your original country. No one? Nobody? No camels? Tayyib. Africa, mashallah, is a very big continent. Second largest in the world. I have many friends from Africa, from different regions of Africa, in which they told me that they have camels in their countries, especially from the northeastern, the Horn of Africa, Somalia, and countries like this, let alone the north, Morocco, so on and so forth, Tunisia, and Algeria. Now, you must pay zakat on livestock. How many cows? How many bulls? We're going to get to that. What's important is that if you have livestock, then there's zakat that's due on those animals. Number 3, agricultural produce. Agricultural produce. That which is called al-kharij min al-ard. That which comes from the earth, linguistically, literally. Agricultural produce. Okay? Everything that comes from the ground, or specific things. We'll get to that. What we know right now is anything that you grow that comes from the soil, you have to do what? Watermelon, pay zakat on. But when we get to later on, but it comes from the earth. Anything that you grow as produce. Right. Moving on. Number 4, women's jewelry. Earrings, necklaces, bracelets, anklets, breastplates, head jewelry. What's important, if a woman has jewelry, this is extremely important, brothers and sisters, then she must pay zakat on that jewelry. All jewelry, or just gold and silver? Rubies, diamonds, platinum, pearls, we're going to get to that. What we need to know right now is that is the general legislation of zakat on what? On jewelry. Everybody got this? Everybody with me? It's very important, brothers and sisters. It's very important. Next point. Treasures. Or if you like to say, buried treasures. Al-Kanz. A person finds treasures. It's not my jewelry. It's not livestock. It's not monetary assets. I found a chest full of necklaces and cups and swords, treasures. This may seem far-fetched nowadays in our modern times, but it's a reality. And there are many people to this day who use metal detectors and find treasures as we speak. Many people. And even before that, Islam is a religion that is legislated for all times and all places, brothers and sisters. Our deen is not just for one time period. There may come a time, and there will come a time, in which all of this technology and these modern types of living is going to go away. It's going to go away. Whether it's oil running out or whatever you want to call it. And people are going to go back to their natural way of doing things. So therefore, if a person finds treasure, it's zakat that is due. And we'll explain this in more detail when we get to the specific point. طيب? Moving on. Minerals. Al-ma'adin. An example of a mineral is what? Gold is a mineral. Salt, sulfur, copper, petroleum. That's a mineral. Something that's taken out of the earth. It's a mineral. Zakat is due on those minerals. How much? On what? We're going to get to that. What's important right now is that zakat is due. And last but not least, and perhaps this is one of the most important things, is merchandise. That which we call urud al-tijara. Merchandise. We have many Muslims who are merchants. They own stores, they own shops, they own shopping plazas, things like this, and they sell things. You must pay zakat on the things that you sell. How much, akhi? On everything? What do I give? We'll get to that later on. What's important right now is that there is an obligatory amount that you have to give on merchandise. Everybody clear on this? Everyone clear on this? Everybody clear on this? Barakallahu feekum. May Allah bless you all. Moving on. The conditions for the incumbency of paying zakat. When does a person have to pay zakat in general? Does every Muslim have to pay zakat? We say the first condition is Islam. Non-Muslims are not required to pay zakat. So if a person accepts Islam and he's 40 years old and he was a very wealthy man, do we say you have to pay zakat for all 40 years that you were a non-Muslim? Some Muslims will say that. Don't take shahada until you do that. Push them away from Islam. That's incorrect. Zakat is only obligatory upon those people who are what? Muslims. Number two, those people must be free. A person who is a captive or slave is not required to pay zakat because he does not own wealth. Any wealth that he earns or possesses is the right of his owner and of his master. Number three, the wealth must reach the minimum amount, an-nisab. If I have $500 that I put up, or if I have a clothing store, or if I have a stand, and I have merchandise, or if I have 5 cows, and 3 sheep and a camel, do I have to pay zakat? No. It's very important, brothers and sisters, you only pay zakat on that which reaches the minimum, and it's called the nisab. Everyone say an-nisab. An-nisab. And don't say an-nisab. An-nisab. Nisab is the minimum. How much is the nisab? There is a nisab for every type of wealth. For livestock is a minimum. For monetary assets is a minimum. For minerals there is a minimum. Wahakadha. It's very important. They are not the same. Many Muslims, they say zakat is 2.5. 2.5 of my money that I save, 2.5 of my wife's jewelry, 2.5 of my merchandise, 2.5 of my livestock, 2.5 of... That's a big mistake. No. Every specific... Some have the same amount, but some are different. And we'll explain this later on. And the last condition is the possession of the nisab. Once it reaches it, one has to keep it. He has to keep it for a specific amount of time. It has to be a steady nisab. Right, moving on to the next point. Conditions for the nisab. How do we know that it is the nisab? Firstly, that your wealth exceed your basic necessities. What's meant by the nisab, brothers and sisters, is not your income. What's meant by nisab is your savings, or that which is put aside. Your electric bill is paid. You have gas in your car. Your children's school tuition is paid for. You have food in the refrigerator. Not a ton of food, but you have the basic necessities. Meaning, you don't touch that wealth. I need everyone to pay. Please stay with me. Please stay with me. A lot of the questions that you may have, and misunderstandings of things, will be answered in this explanation. The nisab is the wealth that you don't touch. You don't need those camels to live. I need these cows for meat, for leather, for milk. Their bones are used for weapons and tools, so on and so forth. No. Those cows can sit there and they can graze in their pasture, and it does not bother and affect my daily life. Everybody got this? The monetary assets that I have, the wealth sits in the bank or beneath my bed, or under the floor, or behind the painting, wherever you hide it, in the freezer, wherever you keep your money. Many people have many places where they keep their money. That money, what? You don't need that money. It's a saving. It's sitting there. It does not affect or alter your daily living. Everybody got this? Extremely important. Next, that 12 Islamic lunar months pass by on your wealth, with exceptions to agricultural produce. Meaning, you have to have the amount of cows, or the money, or the merchandise, not for a month, not for 3 months, not for 6 months, but for how many months? 12 months. An entire year. January, right? February, right? March, April, May, right? Right? I need everybody, right? No. No. Incorrect. No. We said what? There you are. Islamic months. Lunar calendar. Sha'ban. Ramadan. Shawwal. Dhul Qi'dah. Dhul Hajjah. So on and so forth. What's the big deal? What's so important about the Islamic months? That's what it means. Because the Islamic months could be shorter. They could be shorter. What's the least amount of days an Islamic month can be? 28 days, right? 28? 29. 29 days. Beware the trick questions. That's part of teaching. Stay on your toes. How many days? 29. There is no Islamic month that's 28 days. And the most that the Islamic month can be is 30 days. There's no month that's 31 days in Islam. This is very important. You may not look at it as a big deal, but if 12 months go by and each month was only 29 days, that's a considerable amount of days now. Instead of counting 31 days times 12, but it's only 29 days or 30. Some were 30, some were 29. There's a considerable difference. Let's say if a man and a woman, may Allah prevent, they had a major disagreement, okay? And they couldn't live together in harmony. Couldn't live together. And they chose to separate. A woman, when she's divorced, she must wait 3 menstrual cycles. She must wait what? 3 menstrual cycles. If she has a normal cycle. If there's an irregular cycle, if she doesn't have no cycle at all, then she waits for how many months? 3 months. So if she waited according to the Gregorian calendar, then there's extra days that she waited. When he spent money on her, she could not remarry, so on and so forth, based off of those extra days. 3 days, 4 days. Or the exact opposite. A man, when he divorces his wife, and it's not the final divorce, he still lives with her. And she's considered his wife. They are still husband and wife. They're to live together. So he's with her. He sees her uncovered. They eat and drink. They talk to each other. And it was an improper calculation of days. 3 or 4 days or 5 days, he was with a woman that was not his wife. It's a problem. It's a problem. The Hijri calendar is the most accurate calendar. And also, using the calendar of the non-Muslims is considered to be imitating them. We know out of necessity we have to use the calendar because we live here in this country. And the entire world, rather. Because the Muslims have become weak. And the Muslims have fell behind. And they've allowed the non-Muslims to dictate and to tell what goes on in the dunya. Unfortunately, it's the reality that we live in. But for the opportunities that we have, we should use the Hijri calendar. Everybody understand this? And that's from the wisdoms. Right. Thirdly, you must have independent ownership of your wealth. Meaning that it's your wealth and it's all your wealth. It's not a partnership. It's not in a fund with this person or with that person. You don't have debt. It's your money. You can touch it. You can spend it whenever you want to. This is vital to understand this. That you must own the money 100%. I have my savings and it's my wealth. It's not in the hands of this one. It's not held up. Inshallah, they're going to write me that check. Inshallah, they're going to give me this pension or this or that, whatever the case may be. No, the nisab has to be yours. It has to be yours and you have to own the nisab. Right, moving on to the next point. Who are the recipients of zakat? Who do we give the zakat to? Anybody? Everybody? And what is meant by poor? That's a relative term. That's a very relative term. Someone who's considered poor in America may be considered wealthy in a quote-unquote third world country. Is this not the case? The poor people in America, most of them eat meat for most of their meals. For breakfast, you have bacon and sausage. For lunch, a hoagie, a sandwich, a hero. I don't know what you call it here in Maryland. In Philly, we call them hoagies. Tayyib. For dinner, he had chicken or steak or whatever the case may be. He's considered poor. He takes welfare. He doesn't work, so on and so forth. But in some other countries, and I can tell you personally, some countries that I've been to, and which is a reality, the Muslims do not eat meat except for 2 days out of the entire year. 2 days out of the year is the only time they eat meat. I lived in a country like this. Why? Because they're vegetarians? No. That's right. And what are those 2 days, brothers and sisters? Ahsant. The 2 Eids. Other than that, there's no money. They eat eggs and bread and navy beans, so on and so forth. This is a reality. Haqiqah. So somebody in America, he's considered poor, but he eats meat. But in that country, they say, what, you eat meat every day? Wallahi, I swear by Allah, this is a reality. It's all my own eyes. So we have to understand what's meant by poor. All poor people, can we give zakat to non-Muslims, or do they have to be Muslims? That's what we want to speak about right now. Right. There are 8 groups of people to whom you are allowed to give zakat. 8 groups of people, brothers and sisters. 8 groups. The first are the poor. Al-Fuqara. Al-Fuqara. What's meant by the poor? We're going to explain that. The second are the needy. And they are called Al-Masakin. What is the difference between poor and needy, one may say? In Islam, there is a difference. In the Arabic language, there is a difference between poor and needy. Those who are employed to administer the collecting, watching over, and distribution of the funds. Al-Amilina alayha. The people who are in charge of collecting zakat, giving out zakat, and making sure that the people do what they're supposed to do with regards to zakat. Meaning in a Muslim country. Or perhaps if there was a Muslim community that was strong and stable and unified upon the truth, and they gave and they had people that collected the zakat and distributed the zakat. What's important? Those who work in the Islamic State for the Islamic government, they go out and they collect the zakat, they pass out the zakat. It is permissible for them to receive the zakat, with the condition that they don't have a standard stipend, or they don't have a regular payday. They're not paid by the government. They're poor. They're busy collecting and giving out the zakat so they can receive the zakat themselves. Number 4, those whose hearts are being reconciled towards the truth. Al-Mu'allafa Qulubuhum. What is meant by this? A person could be a non-Muslim. He knows about Islam. He has a Muslim relative, a Muslim neighbor. He's thinking about coming to Islam, but just not yet. In the masjid we say we're going to give this person $500 as a gift. And there's a big difference between what the Muslims do and what the Christians do. The Christian missionaries, they buy people's faith. They make them Christians through money. They go and impoverish countries, disease-ridden countries. There's no running water, there's malaria, there's this, there's that disease, and they build clinics, and they build this. But they don't give out the service, they don't give out the medicine, they don't give the education or the scholarships, except for those who come and accept and embrace their religion and their faith. That's not what the Muslims do. If someone is interested in Islam, it is permissible to give them from the wealth of the Muslim. For what purpose? To bring them, not to buy them. There's a big difference. It's a big difference between assisting someone and buying someone. You give a gift to your friend because he's your friend. And it's different between giving someone money to buy them out, to make them your slave. They are not the same. There's a thin line between the two. So someone who's close to Islam, we can give him money to show him that it's not about us, but this is what Islam is about. If you come to our masjid, this masjid, we want you to be a Muslim. You understand? This is very divine wisdom here. Someone who's close to Islam, to give him this money. Or we say, someone who's an oppressor and a tyrant. He's killing Muslims, murdering Muslims, persecuting Muslims. The Muslims that come together and they say to this dictator or this person, this warlord, we will give you $3 million to withdraw with all of your troops from this Muslim country. Leave them alone. What do you have with this country? They owe us money. They took our land. They cut off our pipes and the oil and so on and so forth. So the wealthy Muslims, they say, okay, no problem. How much did it cost? Such and such $1 million. No problem. We write you a check. Leave. Leave the Muslims alone. This is hikmah, divine wisdom in this legislation. Someone who's a tyrant. We'll give you what you need. Stop bothering the Muslims. Or someone who just accepted Islam. He took his shahada last year, and his iman is weak. So it only makes sense that we make him feel comfortable. We make him feel loved. And he may be needy. Take this money. Don't ask where it came from. It's a gift from your brothers in Islam. That's going to strengthen his, that's going to make him love Islam and the Muslims more. And this is from the hikmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, moving on. Those who are in bondage. Those who are, Allah says, وَفِي الرِّقَابِ, the necks. Those who are in bondage. Whether they are Muslim soldiers, warriors, who are taken prisoner and made captives by the non-Muslims, we pay ransom. We have these Muslims that we caught. How much do you want for you to release them? Give us $1 million, no problem. We agree on the terms, you release the Muslim prisoners. Or we say, if there's a Muslim who's a slave in a country, he's a slave, and we know that Islam highly and strongly promotes and recommends the emancipation of slaves. Like no other religion or way of life on the face of the earth. Islam promotes to emancipate slaves. There's a Muslim, he's a believer, he lives amongst the kuffar, they torture him, they oppress him, or they make things hard for him. Or he just wants to be free. How much is this slave worth? Such and such money. The Muslims will give him money from the zakat. From the collected zakat, and we emancipate him. Tayyib? Moving on. Those who are in debt. وَالْغَارِمِينَ, Allah says in the Quran. Those who have debt. And there are two types of debts. Those who have personal debts, or those who take debts to make peace between two warring parties of the Muslims. A man has a lot of money that he owes people. It's very hard for him to pay off those debts. It's stressful. He can't make ends meet. He comes to the masjid, he says, please help me, I have a lot of debts. Can you give me some zakat? Bring us your receipts, bring us the documents on what you owe, and we'll take care of the debts. It's permissible to give him money from the zakat. Or there's a Muslim in America, or let's say in a country, and there are two big tribes of the Muslims. And unfortunately, these tribes are fighting each other. And this happens on a daily basis as we speak. Unfortunately, they're fighting. In most cases, they're fighting over something petty. Something very insignificant. But they're fighting. They're both Muslims, but they're fighting each other. So a strong man, a wise man, a respectable man who has a prestige and clout in both tribes, he goes to a restaurant, or he goes to a merchant, and he says, I need 100 cows. I don't have the money right now, but I can get it to you later. I need 100 cows. And I need so and such pounds of rice, and this and that. I'm going to make a huge feast. A huge feast. And I'm going to tell this tribe that the warring tribe wants to make peace. Which could be an absolute lie. As it states in the hadith, to make peace between the believers. The Kadha tribe, they're making a feast to feed you. And he goes to the other tribe and he says, they're making a feast to feed you to make peace. But and he goes to the people who owns the food, I need this food. I need it done, I need it prepared, I need it cooked. And he makes peace between the two fighting tribes. He stops the bloodshed amongst the Muslims. It's a great thing. But now he owes money now. He bought the 100 cows, the people who prepared the food, the rice, the seasoning, it costs money. Where he's going to get that money from? It's permissible for him to take money from zakat. to take wealth from zakat, whether it's actual cows, whether it's merchandise, rice, whether it's gas that a person sells, or whatever the case may be, or whether it's monetary assets to repay those debts. Everybody got this point? This war had nothing to do with him. It's not his personal debt, but he took it upon himself to stop the strife amongst the believers. Well, there. Everybody clear on this? Everybody clear on this? طيب. The next one, وَفِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, in the cause of Allah. It's permissible to give zakah, to receive zakah, in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What's meant by in the cause of Allah? We know that verse in Surah At-Tawbah, and whenever the term is mentioned, absolutely mentioned, without any details, fi sabilillah, al-maqsood al-jihadu fi sabilillah. That is what's meant by in Allah's cause. Unless it's restricted, and Allah's cause for this, and Allah's cause for spending, and Allah's cause for seeking knowledge. If there's no special detail, then what's meant by in Allah's cause is what? Is jihad in Allah's cause. So, at a time in which there is jihad, legislated, and as a clarification, and I don't think we have to say this, but just as a clarification to make things further clear, that jihad in Allah's cause is not suicide, it's not blowing yourself up, it's not killing non-combatants and civilians, it's not destruction, it's not waste, it is not reckless destruction of property and of wealth. That's not jihad in Allah's cause. That is not jihad in Allah's cause. To go outside and to kill yourself and to kill people, that's not jihad in Allah's cause. Jihad in Allah's cause is no different than salah and zakat. There are conditions, there are rulings, there are do's and don'ts. And the purpose of jihad and the legislation of jihad is not to kill people, and it's not to spill people's blood, but it is to deliver them from shirk to tawheed, to deliver them from kufr to iman. As one of the companions said, and I believe it was Uthman radiallahu anhu, when he went to a country, the eve of the battle, and he met with them, and he was discussing the terms of war. He said, "We have not come to your country to kill you. We haven't come to your country to take over your wealth, to enslave you, to take your women. That's not what we came here." He says, we've only come to emancipate the slaves from the worship of the slaves, and to take them to the worship of the creator of the slaves. We have only come to save them from worshipping other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to take them and to direct them into the direction of what? Of worshipping Allah alone without any part. Inshallah, this is clear. But this is very important to understand in Islam. That's not what's meant by jihad in Allah's cause. There's another interpretation of this term. Some scholars say that what's meant by fi sabilillah, anything that has a good purpose and is propagating Islam. Anything that has a good purpose and it propagates the spreading and the preservation of Islam. Such as what? Such as what? Dawah. Printing books. They say it can be funded through zakat because it's what? Fi sabilillah. Islam, we call people to Islam. Such as making a dawah center. A center to call non-Muslims to Islam. A center to teach the Muslims who are ignorant or they need guidance about the true, right Islam. And the Sunnah. Some scholars say that can also be included in the term fi sabilillah. We don't want to spend too much time on this. But, brothers and sisters, I'm sorry, this is very important. And it comes up every single year. In the masjids, they ask the question, can we take money from zakah to fix the masjid? Right, Abu Amin? Every year. Can we take the zakat? Can you give your zakat to pay off the debts of the masjid? We just bought a new masjid. There's the wudu station we just made. We made a roof. We made an extension. The parking lot. A kid's playground. Is it permissible for the zakat to be given for that? If you say that in Allah's cause is anything that's in Allah's cause, then you can say yes. But if you say no, what's meant by in Allah's cause is fighting in Allah's cause, then you would say what? You can't give the zakat for the masjid building fund. Everybody got this? This is extremely important. I know many of you are sitting here, it's not clicking, but in Ramadan, when the Imam makes the announcement, and he says we have a wudu station, we have a school we need to build, give your money for zakat. Then you'll learn to appreciate this. Right, next point. Oh, and the last one says the wayfarer. Wabin sabil, the person who travels. A man left his city, he left his country, he ran out of money. He ran out of money. He comes to the masjid, and this is all the time. Brother, I'm from Newark, New Jersey. I'm from New York, I'm from Philadelphia. Me and my wife, we don't have no money to get on the train. Can you help me out? Most Muslims say, nah, he's lying. He's on drugs. We can't help you. This is incorrect. This is incorrect. Islam teaches us to be pure-hearted. Islam teaches us to think good of people. And at the same time, we're not to be naive. We are not to be what? Naive and foolish. But if you don't have no solid proof that a person is lying, if you have no solid proof that they're going to use that money for haram, then you should do what? You should give it to them. Because Allah mentioned in the Quran, the wayfarer, the one who runs out of money and he can't get back to his place of residence. Fine, moving on. Now let's discuss the nisab. We know the nisab in detail. Now we said that there are certain things that you have to pay zakat for. How much? That's what we want to get into right now. Next slide, inshallah. First type of zakat, or the first thing that you have to pay zakat for is what? Monetary assets. How much do you have to pay? The nisab of gold is 20 dinars. Do people use dinars today? Yes, they do. Not in America though. 20 dinars, which equals to approximately 4 ounces. 4 ounces of pure gold, which approximately amounts to $4,800 US. Meaning, if you have $5,000 in your bank account, or in your house, or wherever you have the money stashed, and 12 Islamic months pass by that wealth without you touching it, and you don't have no other necessities from that wealth, you have to do what? You have to pay zakat. You have to pay zakat on that money. What's the nisab of gold and silver? 20 dinars, which is equivalent to 4 ounces of solid gold. And we just calculated this. And you know the price goes up and down in the market, but this is inshallah accurate. 4 ounces of gold. I don't have ounces of gold. I have a credit card. I have money. $4,800. If you have $4,000, do you have to pay zakat? No. If you have $20,000, you have to pay zakat? Yes, you do. How much do you have to pay on your money? 2.5. Rubul ushur. And the easy way of calculating it is by taking your sum of money and dividing it by 40. The sum that you get, that's how much you have to pay in zakat. Some people do the 2.5, 25% out of this and that, so on and so forth. I like to do the simple way, divided by 40. The sum that you get is what you have to pay in zakat. Everybody got this? Okay, very quickly. I have $5,000. How much is my zakat? Huh? 5,000. 2.5 of 5,000 is what? Quickly, we gotta wrap up. Say we have questions. How much? 125? They agree on that? 1250. $125. Right, brothers and sisters, please just bear with me. Patience. May Allah bless you all. You have $5,000 and you only give 125. Does that hurt your wealth? That's nothing. Or as we say, chump change. Right? But to that poor person, that means a lot. To the poor person, it means what? It doesn't hurt the wealthy, but it does a great deal of benefit for the poor.